Mm.
Terrific. Thank you so much for doing this, Bishop Phoebe. And we are here on August 31st, 2021. And the bishop is in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
And she is the bishop for the Diocese of West Tennessee.
Yes.
And she was consecrated in 2019.
Yes.
And after having decamped from Richmond, Virginia.
Yes.
And
my old stomping grounds.
Yes, my old stomping ground. And she also serves on the board of the Virginia Theological Seminary. She's the vice chair.
Yes.
And very active in Black stuff, I call it, at the seminary. But it's in the reparations effort.
Yes.
And I hope, of course, in even greater ways, in the African American Episcopal Historical Collection. It is it's a privilege to speak with you.
Well, thank you, Riley.
So tell me about what you are doing now, and we will go back.
Yes. So I'm really, I suppose in a sense, there are days when I'm the CEO of a company. There are days when I'm the chief evangelist in West Tennessee. I spend a lot of time serving as the pastor to my clergy. It's a very different role than pastoring parishioners, because of course, most parish priests see their folks at least once a week, and I don't see my folks that often. I'm at the 35,000 foot level as a bishop. It's a very different call than either deacon or priest. It's much more administrative, I would say, than either of those other calls. But there is joy in administration when you feel like you're setting up policies and procedures to help a diocese run more smoothly so that you can do a better job of supporting the growth of the kingdom of God. So I wear lots of different hats. It's never boring. There's always more work at the end of the day than you can do, but it's really good and meaningful work.
How many parishes are in your diocese?
So there are currently 29 congregations in the Diocese of West Tennessee. The entire state of Tennessee was one large diocese from the mid, I think, 1800s until 1982.
Wow.
And if you think about that conversation that began in the late 90s, because of course, Tennessee is long and skinny, it's 8 hours across to drive it. So that's a lot for a bishop. Yeah. That was right before the development of the internet, before cell phones. So you had people driving 4 hours from Memphis to a meeting, say standing committee meeting in Nashville, 3.5 hours from Knoxville, and then driving back for a 2-hour meeting. It didn't make sense, but
right.
I think if they had waited just a few years, they probably would have divided the state in half. So as a result, we've got 3 relatively small dioceses. I think if you counted up all of the churches in all 3 Tennessee dioceses, they probably have 50 to 60 each. So we probably are looking at 140.
Yeah.
So, the question is, at some point, will we regroup? But for right now, I have 29 churches. I have about 80 active clergy, and I have about 8,000 parishioners.
Wow.
So we're very small when you consider diocesan structure.
I see. So, and do you have any seminarians in the process?
At this point, I do not. I ordained 2 vocational deacons in May of 2021 and 2 transitional deacons in June of 2021.
I see.
So we did have 4 women graduate, and they're all serving the church right here in West Tennessee.
Oh, wonderful. Can we go back to Pine Bluff? The place of your birth?
So actually, it's not the place of my birth.
No,
it isn't. My dad is from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And he met my mother on a blind date at Michigan State University in Lansing.
Uh-huh.
And apparently that was it. They met and that was it. So I was born in Lansing, Michigan.
Oh.
My dad needed a few more courses after my mom graduated. And then they relocated to Washington, D.C. My dad attended Howard Dental School. And so I was in D.C. from like 1 to 5. And that's where I learned how to speak, which is why I probably do not have as strong of a Southern accent as my two younger brothers and my younger sister. So we moved to Pine Bluff when I started kindergarten. And my parents were there until they both died. So Pine Bluff is really the place that formed me, but it's not my hometown.
I see. That's fascinating.
My birthplace, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have memories? I mean, vivid memories of being here in Washington?
No, I don't really have any memories other than remembering times with my grandparents. My first memories would definitely be like kindergarten and first grade moving forward in Pine Bluff. It was at the time a good place, I think, to raise a family, a small city of maybe 45,000 people. And there were 2 Episcopal churches, and we belonged to one of them, Grace. The arrangement that my parents made was my mother wanted her children to be baptized and confirmed as Episcopalians.
Yes.
And we were, but we also spent a fair amount of time in my dad's Missionary Baptist Church, which is where my dad was one of 9 children. And I think when I was growing up, probably 6 of the siblings lived in Pine Bluff. So I had a ton of first cousins and aunts and uncles and related family members at that church. And so I spent a lot of time. I was really formed in both faith traditions, but it was interesting. It was quite a segregated situation, even in the 70s when I was a girl. And there were like 2 or 3 families of color at Grace Episcopal Church, and everybody was white. And of course, my dad's church was all Black. And so my Black friends didn't really understand why I was a member of a congregation that didn't have any Black folks, and that seemed so quiet, and the service was so short. How could you be done with service in an hour? So it was culturally, I stood out a little bit, I would say, as a Black girl in Pine Bluff.
Did you like it? Did you like Grace?
I did.
And the liturgy?
I did. I loved the liturgy. I loved the structure of it. There was just something about that calm, measured time that really spoke to my soul. The thing that I loved about my dad's church was the music. Oh, the old school gospels and spirituals back in the day. That if I could have had that in my Episcopal church, it would have been great. Now, when people started, running up and down the aisles in my dad's church, I was a little scared. But the music really spoke to me from the Baptist tradition.
Yeah. When you were, you're from a family of achievement.
I am.
And achievement at a time when it was not common.
Right. Yes.
It was not a common occurrence that you'd have a family of that was well educated on both sides, and of several generations. Can you fill us in about your family and its stellar accomplishments?
Well, I kind of think that my family, if you consider my mother's side and my dad's side, really encapsulates the whole experience of African Americans in this country. On my dad's side, my grandfather was from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. My grandmother was from North Louisiana. That grandfather had maybe a 3rd grade education, and my grandmother had an 8th grade education. And they spent time sharecropping and doing domestic work and all kind of stuff. And my dad was number 7 of 9, and he was the first in his family to go to college.
Wow.
And then his 2 younger siblings went, and then a couple of the older ones went later on in life. And so very much.
And where did he go?
He went to Michigan State.
Michigan State, yes.
He was on sort of an underground railroad of sorts, one of the
Uh-huh.
first Black athletes from the deep South to go to a major white university. He probably went to Michigan State in the late 50s on an athletic and an academic scholarship.
Mhm.
And totally, education and faith and service to others. Those were the three traits or characteristics that my mom and my dad really shared. I think that was what brought them together. My grandmother on my dad's side did a lot of work with community organizing with an organization called Acorn. So a lot of
Oh,
service, even though
yeah.
they were poor, they really worked to help others. On my mother's side, um, there are more interracial relationships, and
Mhm.
I can't ascertain how many of those were consensual or
Yeah.
non-consensual.
Yeah.
But of my four great grandparents, uh, three of them were college graduates. So I'm fourth generation college educated Episcopalian on my mom's side. And my great grandfathers met on the campus of St. Paul's Episcopal School in Lawrenceville. They were both on the faculty. My grandmother was actually born in faculty housing in Lawrenceville,
Wow.
Virginia. So I have very deep roots in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Both of my mother's parents are from Virginia. My grandfather was from Hanover, right outside of Richmond, and my grandmother was from Norfolk.
Uh-huh.
My great grandfather ran the Colored Y in Norfolk, and lots of service and giving to others on that side as well. So in some ways, Riley, it's not a surprise that I went to the schools that I did and that I've ended up where I am, because I've had so much support and encouragement. Both of my grandmothers thought I hung the moon and always said, Phoebe, you are smart and gifted and beautiful, and you can do anything you put your mind to.
Isn't
And
that wonderful?
it saddens me that we have so many young folks today, especially young African American children, who were told by their families, you ain't nothing. I didn't have that, right? People poured into me and always said, the sky's the limit. So I'm really blessed. I'm totally blessed to have just gotten that lottery when it comes to families. And again, even though they came from very different socioeconomic perspectives, the unifying things were their faith in the Lord, their commitment to family and education.
Values.
Yes, it was a shared set of values,
Yeah.
way beyond how much money you had. That
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So so were you the oldest grandchild on both sides?
No. So my dad is number 7 of 9. So I
Okay.
have
Oh yeah, no, you've had plenty. Yeah,
who are
right.
almost my dad. First cousin's almost my dad's age. But yes, on my mother's side, my mother was so I'm the oldest of 4. My mother was the oldest of 3. My grandmother was the oldest of 3.
Wow.
And my great grandmother was the oldest of 10. So I am
Whew.
the 4th daughter to be the oldest child. And that's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation with your therapist about the sort of stuff that puts you through. Yes, I am. And my younger siblings would say it's so obvious you don't have to ask. So yeah, I had caregiving responsibilities and nurturing responsibilities for my sister and my 2 brothers, the 3 who came after me. And that was probably also another important part of my formation, to be the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only girl.
No, 2 girls.
Oh,
Girl,
2 girls.
boy, boy.
Okay. So
Girl.
so tell me, well, first of all, let's talk about your mother
Yes.
and and her life in both education wise and a student and as someone who took a journey and did a turn in midlife. Yes.
Yes. So my mother was a brilliant human being. She would say that if she had not gotten married and had children, she probably would have been pretty eccentric. But her children were the joy of her life, it turns out. She loved animals, all animals. I mean, I grew up with all kinds of animals because of her. She initially thought about being a vet, but then decided that she was going to major in, I think it was chemistry or biology. And she ended up in the first phase of her career doing cancer research on mice.
Oh.
She worked in Washington, D.C. for the FDA, and then continued that work at a lab in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, when she and my dad moved there. She was brilliant. Her approach to the world was largely intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
That included her faith. She very much, I mean, she was an Episcopalian, not only because it was the faith tradition that she had been brought up in, but that the intellect was very much how she connected with God. And when she found herself in Arkansas in her early 30s with 4 children, working a government job with a husband who was in private practice and general dentistry, and you know how that goes, good months and bad months, and she wanted a higher income, she decided to go to law school. And so she went to the University of Arkansas at Little Rock Law School.
Mm-hmm.
She graduated in 1978. It was about an hour drive from Pine Bluff. So she was married. She had 4 children. She had an hour commute. She did like 9 to 5, where she would stay up there and study in between her classes.
Yes.
Come home. We had a housekeeper at the time, helping cook the meals, but then she was supervising our homework and school projects, and then she would put us to bed and she would do additional work.
Wow.
We went to sleep, and she graduated number 2 in her class.
Ooh.
Right? Ooh. And the ironic thing about that is that had been a part-time law school, and they moved to full-time, and the class of 78 was the first full-time class where you could do it in 3 years and not have to do it at night school.
Yeah.
So of the top 10 graduates, 7 of the 10 were women. There was a woman who was number 1. My mom was number 2. I think the first guy was number 3 in the class. And so traditionally, the clerkships on the Arkansas Supreme Court had been given to the top graduates of the class at UALR. Because of course, Little Rock is the capital. And so the Supreme Court is based there. And both my mother and the valedictorian of her class, another woman who was a longtime friend, interviewed for a clerkship on the Arkansas Supreme Court. And they were told in 1978 by lawyers, judges no less, that because they were married and their husbands could cover their salaries, those jobs needed to go to the men so that they could provide for their families. That would be illegal to do today.
Absolutely.
So it was quite ironic that after many years of being a bankruptcy attorney, and she did represent consumers, she did not represent corporations, of helping people sort of untangle their financial mess and kind of restart, get a reboot. That she would be appointed to serve on the Arkansas Supreme Court, the court that had turned her down because of her gender. Many years before.
And so she must have been active politically then to
No, she wasn't. My dad was. She was not. But she was doing a lot of community service. She served on the board of the Rockefeller Foundation. She was on the board for years of the NPR, the public radio affiliate down there. So she did more of that sort of stuff. My dad was much more politically involved.
So it was a prominent family.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would say that.
Yeah.
In Arkansas, I was Andre and Cliff's daughter.
Right.
So much Phoebe.
Right. And tell me about your brothers.
Yes. So, well, I'll start with my sister.
And your
my
sister
is 5 years younger.
Yeah.
She definitely has my mom's intellect, just no question. She is currently.
I'm embarrassed that you had to remind me that you had a sister.
Yes. Mary. She's currently on tenure track faculty at and I always get it confused whether it's Turlock or Modesto, but so in California they have a Cal State and they have a UC, University
Right.
of California system. So she is an assistant professor of ethnic studies at Cal State University Stanislaus, and she's going up for early tenure next year. So we have our fingers crossed that she will get it. And she is a brilliant person. She got her undergrad degree from Georgetown University, and she got her master's degree from Northern Arizona University, and she got her PhD from Temple in Philly. My middle brother, Willie, is a retired professional athlete.
Indeed.
He went to Louisiana Tech University on a football scholarship, excuse me, and left a year early to get ready for the draft. And he drafted number 8 in the draft and went on to play 9 years for the New Orleans Saints and 4 or 5 years for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he retired in 2006, and he was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame in 2012, which is a once in a lifetime experience to go to Canton, Ohio, and have that sort of dream that, you know, how many kids play football? That's not on anybody's list. It just sort of happens. But
and were your parents still alive at the time?
My father was alive. My mother was deceased. So my father actually presented my brother. And I think it really speaks to the values. My parents never said, you know, you have to be a professor, you have to be a doctor, but they just said, whatever you do, you've got to do it to the nth degree. Like if you're sweeping streets, you better be the best one.
Absolutely.
My youngest brother, Andrew, is the only one who still lives in Arkansas. He's in Pine Bluff. So my sister's in California. Willie is in Florida. I'm in Tennessee, and Andrew's still in Pine Bluff. He started off at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and ended up having a child and dropping out of school to start working to sort of raise his children. Had several more after that. So he is married and is actually working for a supervisor for the sort of county-wide bus system that provides transportation for elderly patients needing dialysis or doctor's appointments. That's what he's doing.
Good work.
Yes, exactly.
Now, when you were a child, were your schools racially integrated at the time?
They were. I'm sure you know about Central High.
Oh, indeed.
And Governor Faubus.
Yeah.
All of that. So in Arkansas, because that was such a horrific experience for the high school students, they did reverse integration. They did high school first, and then they moved to middle school, and then they moved to elementary. They didn't start with the youngest children, thinking that it would be too traumatic. But different states, right, had different ways of doing it. So in 1970, Riley, when I entered first grade in the Jefferson County school system, I did my entire K through 12 was public education. I'm a product of the Arkansas public education system. My class was the first class to go 1st through 12th grade integrated. My father's entire, of course, educational system was segregated.
Yeah.
But I'm 57. I'm not that old. So everybody older than me had at least some portion of their public education to be segregated. But it was about 50-50 then. The white flight, at least in Pine Bluff, I graduated high school in 82. I would say didn't really begin in earnest until the early 1990s. Now my high school that was 50-50 is probably 95% Black and brown.
Right. Same with the schools in Richmond. Yeah. Phoebe, when did you know? I assume that you did very well in school.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Were there other students in your class who went to an Ivy League school?
No. I would say in the late 70s and early 80s in Arkansas, at least in Pine Bluff, maybe not so much Little Rock, very few people looked outside of the state of Arkansas. And if they did, they tended to go to neighboring states, prominent Southern schools. So people would go to Rice or SMU or Rhodes here in Memphis or Vanderbilt in Nashville. So there were very few people looking outside of the South. I was the only student from the state of Arkansas in my class at Harvard.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was there knowing zero. I didn't know one person when I started. Yeah.
That's a good thing, I think.
Probably was.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you were a child,
Yes.
when did you know that you had gifts, special gifts?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a great question. I'm not sure, Riley. Think about that. I think when you grow up within a family, you just feel like that's the norm, right? So doing the things that my parents and my grandparents encouraged and suggested, even when they were a stretch for me, that was just normal for me.
Yeah.
So it probably took me a while to acknowledge that that I had gifts, and then you want to be humble about it. So there's this thin line between confidence and humility. So yeah, I would say it's taken me a while to be able to name my gifts and to embrace my gifts, and not in a way that's bragging, but that is just sort of stating the facts. I think that's been a journey for me.
And you've honed your gifts.
I have,
right?
yeah.
And you've worked hard to hone your gifts.
Riley, I have to say, I have, and even in that, I'm very blessed because I have worked alongside, been colleagues of people who probably were smarter and had many more gifts than I. Some people really work hard and the cards just don't come out their way.
Yeah.
Fate is not on their side. They always catch a bad break. I'm the sort of person, when I really extended or expended a great deal of effort on something, 99% of the time I saw the fruits of that. But I know there are other people who don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So when you went away to Harvard,
yes.
Did you like it? Or did it take any time for you to? Of course, it took time for you to become accustomed to it.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was another world. I wouldn't be, the person that I am if I had not had 4 years in Cambridge. I really grew up. Harvard is not for everybody, and you need to be pretty self-directed and self-motivated. I had classmates who were there and it wasn't a good fit, and they stayed because, it was Harvard.
Yeah.
But it worked for me. And I did. I generated lifelong friends. I had exposure to amazing people like Bishop Tutu and many others. I sort of sat at the knee, as it were, figuratively, of Peter Gomes. I was not an Episcopalian when I was in college. I went to Memorial and sat at his feet and listened to those phenomenal sermons. First book of sermons I ever bought was a book of sermons by Peter Gomes. So yeah, I mean, it opened up a whole nother world that I never would have known about if I had stayed in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So those 4 years played a pivotal role in my formation, and I would absolutely do it again.
Well,
yes.
Let's go back. So when you were growing up in Grace, were you an acolyte?
So both of my brothers were acolytes. I did a lot of debating and oratorical contests. And when my rector learned that, I must have been in the 10th grade. He said, well, if you're running around here doing all these contests, you need to offer your gifts to the Lord. So I think I was the first teenage lector put on the list back in probably 1979 or 80. So I have been publicly proclaiming scripture in the context of worship for more than 40 years. So that's what I did. I wasn't an acolyte, but I was elected.
And was that during your youth, before going away to Harvard?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame you for not going to the Episcopal Church if you have Peter Gomes to listen to every Sunday. I mean, my goodness.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But did you sense at the time that any special spiritual attraction, calling, transcendence?
No.
Okay.
No. The call to ordination was never on my radar. In part because when I was a girl, women weren't ordained in the Episcopal Church. I guess by the time I graduated high school, that had just happened.
Mm-hmm.
In my dad's church, all a woman could do was be a head usher and read the announcements from a music stand on the floor. A woman could not be in the pulpit, a woman could not pray, a woman could not preach, none of that. So I really felt that my calling was to be a committed lay woman. I did, however, want to learn more about God and about faith and the intellectual enterprise is something that I enjoy. And so I was taking classes and doing different things, quiet days and Bible studies and things of that nature. But it was really in pursuit of me just being a more well-rounded Christian.
Mm-hmm.
When I after college, I worked for a year in Washington, D.C., and then I went to grad school at Princeton. And when I graduated in '89, I got a job with state government in Richmond. I worked for the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, JLARC. And I was a member of St. Philip's Episcopal Church, 2900 Haynes Avenue.
Were you really?
Father Went of blessed memory was the rector, yes. And I was there for 2.5 years. And then I got an opportunity to go to Philadelphia to work for a nonprofit. And I'd never lived in a city like Philadelphia as a working professional. It's really different to be, in Cambridge or Boston as a student. And so I loved Philly. And I thought, I could join Absalom Jones Church. And so I was a member of St. Thomas, and, the Reverend Jesse Anderson Jr. of blessed memory was my rector, and Father Logan and Pastor Sadie. I mean, what a trio, right?
Yeah.
And it was probably maybe 93. And Father Anderson was the first person to say to me, I think you have a calling on your life to be a priest, and I'm going to send you to a conference. And I'm like, I think you're on drugs. But, I'm old school enough. When your priest says you're going to go, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So there was a conference held that was co-sponsored by the Diocese of Massachusetts. And, maybe I'm thinking because that's where Bishop Harris was. And the College for Preachers, which is no longer in existence. And we stayed in those dorms, and they had folks who were aspirants, postulants, candidates for holy orders who were Black. We met at several of the Black churches in DC. There were maybe representatives from 7 of the seminaries present, and I was terrified, Riley. I was like, there is no way I will have to give up every little shred of control that I think that I have over my life. I'm not going to do this. So I promptly returned, and within 2 years had applied to law school and went to Arkansas, back to Little Rock, moved to Little Rock to go to law school. So I went from a very large, predominantly Black the mother church of all Black churches, to a church plant in West Little Rock that was finishing a construction project, still meeting in a movie theater, 95% white and suburban. And in a year, that priest said, has anyone ever talked to you about ordination? Because it's so clear. And I said, well, I'm here for law school. Seminary doesn't have anything to do with it. But like an idiot, I heard about EFM. So my second and third years of law school, I did year 1 and 2 of EFM because that's just right who I am, right? As if I didn't have enough reading to do. And EFM, really grabbed me, and I love learning scriptures. And I was like, poor Moses didn't start Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Like, what? Who are this? What's this J source? But what? I loved it. I loved it. But of course, I was going to be a lawyer, and so I moved to New Orleans, the clerk for a federal judge on the Fifth Circuit, and joined a small suburban congregation that was white.
Who's the judge?
Judge James Dennis on the Fifth Circuit, appointed by President Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
St. Luke's, Curtis Cisco was dead by the time I moved to New Orleans, but he was very much alive in that church, and they were really struggling with what it meant to live without him, and it wasn't a healthy system. So I went to
St. Luke's, New Orleans.
Right, but I decided not to join St. Luke's.
Yeah, they were really devastated by Katrina.
They were. Yeah. But this was all before Katrina, because I moved there in '98. So I joined a white suburban church, and third church in, I don't know, at that point, how many years has it been? 1, 5, 6, 7 years?
Yeah.
People are like, you're going to be a priest. So, when God keeps sending you these messages, finally you have to kind of say, let me just pay some attention. And so I turned 40 and really thought and prayed about what my future was going to hold. Already thinking, am I almost halfway done? Like, is this it? And what gave me the most energy, Riley, what I had the most energy and passion about was the church. I was on the Altar Guild, I was on the vestry, I taught in the J2A, I was on the outreach committee, I was in the church all the time.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, I'm in Louisiana, the diocese has never ordained a Black woman, it's not going to happen, I'll start the process, the answer is going to be no, and then I can tell all these people that I've done it, shut up, I don't want to hear about it anymore. And so, of course, it was not a straight line. It was not a straight line, but the answer ended up being yes. And I went to VTS, and that was fabulous because Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, and South Louisiana being, if not 95%, at least 90% Roman Catholic, there were very few Protestant women in leadership roles just because of the ethos. And so to have Martha Horn as my dean, and Marge McNaughton as the dean of students, and Mary Hicks to be over the money, like to have 3 amazing women in leadership, that was just fabulous. And I loved VTS. It was the perfect place for me. And I struggled with a lot of things when I was there. It was hard.
That's a good thing.
Yep, but it was good. I didn't need to be anywhere else. And went back to New Orleans. I started August of 2005. And so it's been a thing for me to see this Ida and thinking back about being in the dorm August term and watching the footage, and then all the cell towers were underwater. That's actually how I ended up with my current cell phone, 202, because I left Louisiana and ended up in Alexandria a couple of weeks before Katrina hit with a 504 area code cell phone, and all the cell towers were underwater. And my cell phone wouldn't work.
Right.
So I got a 202 area code that I have to this day because of Katrina. But yeah, I really was blessed to have Vincent Harris as my field ed supervisor for 2 years. He's very old school, as you know, but fabulous liturgist, fabulous preacher. Learned so much and thought, I've got 20 years and I love parish ministry, and I can serve a couple of congregations for 20 years, and thank God for the church pension. And I'll have a nice little pension to add to what I've saved up from when I was a lawyer. And really, that was the plan, right? If you open the dictionary and you look at Episcopal bishop, I mean, I'm not white, I'm not a man, I'm not mother, I've never been married, I'm not anything. Okay. So bishop was not on my radar at all.
Yeah. Well, hold on for a second. First of all, let me just suggest that at some point when you take another look back, that you might see that it was in fact a straight line. I don't, I don't think it's necessarily, oh, it was never a straight line and I zigged and zagged, fine. But Phoebe.
So
just
there
for
are
you-
zigs. There are zigs in straight lines too.
Right. But just for your consideration, but not now, but later. And I want to. I read your interview
Which interview?
in No Turning Back,
Oh, I haven't read that in a while.
and of course it's wonderful, and you were very honest. Not you did not denounce the Virginia Seminary at all.
No.
In fact, what you did was to say these are the ways in which they can be more responsive and more accommodating. Those are my words, not yours. But and so I've found it to be just a wonderful interview. I think I'm going to be working on an update of that at some point.
And I would probably, not having read that in a long time, probably much of what I said back then is still the case at BTS. I think we've made some progress, and I still
yes,
think
we have.
way to go.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we always have a long way to go. Now, that being said, of course, you went to Princeton.
I did.
Which must have been wonderful intellectually.
It was an, again, Princeton is such, they have such a focus on their undergrads. That's what they're known for.
Right.
It is different to be there as a grad student. You really kind of are a second class, a citizen as a grad student. But yes, it was a fabulous experience. And when I was there, and I started in '87, Cornel West was on the faculty of the college, and I sat in on a couple of his classes. And I mean, he just blew me away.
Yeah.
He was really in his prime. So yes, it was fabulous.
Okay. And law school after that.
Yes.
Do you think that you were at that time that you were searching?
Probably so. Until Richmond the second time around, the 8 years that I spent, just about 8 at St. Philip's, Riley, that's the longest that I lived anywhere other than, I was in New Orleans from 98 to 2011. It was 13 years, but I had 3 years at BTS that you sort of have to take out. So yes, you would not be the first person to ask if I have not been on some sort of a quest for a long time. That probably is true. And I guess the good news is that by the grace of God, I don't feel like I have as much to prove really to myself more than anybody else that I did for a long time. Yeah.
Well, Phoebe, I'm sorry I call you by Phoebe. I want to.
That's fine. You should call me by Phoebe. That's my given name.
It was, of course, I read about you before I ever set eyes on you. And because your academic achievements at the Virginia Seminary, graduating at the top of your class, and I think you also got a prize in languages. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
in ancient languages. Yeah. And I was in Bob Pritchard's church history class, and we were talking about genealogy, and he quoted you.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Wow. So you are a legend there. When we finally met, and I don't remember when that was, I really don't. I knew that you would become a bishop.
you know?
I just knew. And I said it to people.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
And they said, what? I said, Bishop. It was very clear to me that you had the
Clearly,
right.
there are a lot of things about myself that I can't see. I will say that. And the other thing that I will say, and this is again another conversation, but you know, we all have sort of family of origin stuff. There is, and I had a meeting with my therapist yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, and she wouldn't be the first person to say this. She said, you know, you show such compassion and generosity to other people. It would be nice if you could display that same measure to yourself. There is nobody who could ever be harder on me than I am on myself. And so it's probably a continuing, a growing edge for me to extend to myself the same generosity and compassion that I
And grace.
and grace that I extend to others.
You know, I don't know, you know, that's something you and I have in common. That's a very shrinky thing that my shrink says to me.
And it really goes back to family of origin stuff.
Yeah,
there are a whole lot of tapes that you never turn them off, but at least hit pause.
Right. Now, I also listened to your Easter sermon from 2020, the
During
Gospel
COVID.
of John,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and she was alone when greeted by what she thought was the gardener.
Mm-hmm.
And there you are in the chapel of the cathedral,
Mm-hmm.
in your beautiful purple cassock.
Yeah.
And I thought about, and I know this is about you, it's not about me, but you know, I'm talking about that. I was reminded of the clip that you did when you were we were up for election.
Mm-hmm. I was in the
Bishop
chapel at St. Philip's.
was the chapel at St. Philip's.
I was.
And there was another occasion that you gave a sermon was it Three Sisters Chapel, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the Sisters Chapel.
Yeah. And what is it about a space like that
Mm-hmm.
that lends itself for you as a place to talk about the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, you know, the cathedral in Memphis, the current sort of nave main worship space was not the first part of it that was constructed. The interior is wood. Sisters Chapel was actually where Constance and her companions worshiped and started a school for girls before the yellow fever epidemic of 1878. And it's also where they tended to many sick after the wealthy folks who could flee Memphis left. So that particular space, I mean, if you're ever in Memphis, those walls have been prayed in ways that you don't feel in a new space, right? It's like the difference between our old chapel at VTS and the current chapel at VTS just hadn't been prayed in. So yeah, that space in particular, the sister spirits are there, and you just think about everything that happened out of that space. I thought that was the more appropriate place for me to be than on the high altar.
Yeah.
In the midst of COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. And delivering a sermon that spoke to me about the relationship, the friendship, the intimate relationship of Jesus
and Mary.
Yeah.
you're a preacher, Riley. I think it takes a while to claim your authentic voice. And I love Dr. King and all the great tradition of Black preaching. And of course, our own Bishop Curry, such a phenomenal man. How fortunate are we to have him as our presiding bishop in this era? But I mean, I can't preach like Dr. King. I would laugh at myself, right? So, sort of figuring out my voice, which is more teaching, I would probably say, than strict preaching, and more conversational. But that's kind of my voice, and
Yes.
owning that and saying this is what I have to offer.
But I think what you have is voice and a manner of speaking. Those oratorical skills have
Yes,
paid off
yeah.
very well.
Nothing,
And- because
right?
you have that, you draw people in, Phoebe.
Yeah,
And I hope people have said that to you.
they have.
Yeah.
Yes, they have. Yeah, people often comment on my voice, um, and it's mostly white people, so I don't take it as they're shocked to hear a Black person enunciate or know how to conjugate the verb to be. I mean, I kind of get what they're getting at. It's interesting. I did all that oratorical work, but I'm not trained vocally. I never took communications classes in college or whatever. So I guess the training that I had was sort of more off the cuff than anything structured. But again, me sort of having, I don't necessarily have a Midwestern accent, but I don't have a strong Southern accent. So my accent is sort of hard for people to place.
Right.
I think that's also like what catches them, and something about the tone of my voice speaks to, really has an impact on people. Enough people have given me that feedback that I get it. Now, for me, when I listen to myself, I mean, it's just weird.
Everybody says that. Right.
But I've had enough feedback to know that my voice is, in and of itself, is a powerful, I guess, instrument that the Lord can use.
And when you consider, the ways in which you execute your duties, where would you put preaching?
That's a great question. Preaching is really important, but it's interesting, right? When you are somewhere every week, you kind of know when people need to be pushed and when people just need to be loved on, when they're overwhelmed. It is really hard, Riley, to preach in a different place every Sunday, and you don't know the real tone, and you don't want to be tone deaf. So it's a challenge. But yeah, I do think that preaching would be high up there. The other thing that I would say is that I have a communications person, and that there was nobody on staff doing that when I came.
Yeah.
So the whole taping of videos, taping of messages to the diocese, social media presence, trying to be more on Facebook and whatever. I think that's been there's the whole public role of it. That's a huge part of how my voice can get out beyond just one particular church on a Sunday.
I see. Now, let's talk a little bit about the presence of Black women.
Yes.
As bishops in the church in 2021.
Yes.
All of whom, if I recall, are graduates of Virginia Seminary.
No, not all of them.
What? They're diocesan bishops, right? No.
So Jennifer Baskerville-Burroughs is CDSP.
Okay.
I believe Kim Lucas may have been general.
Kim did. She
Carly Hughes is VTS. I'm VTS. Shannon McBain Brown. I'm not remembering. I don't think she was VTS.
Yeah.
And then we have two bishops elect. Of course, Paula. I think Paula and Ketlin are both VTS.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I hope Paula will be able to become consecrated soon. What do you make of it?
Oh, wow. well, I mean, the Holy Spirit is clearly doing something in our church. I think that UBE has advocated for more Black bishops for decades. And I think there have been a lot of white women and some white men really advocating for female bishops. And so I think UBE's efforts initially resulted in, other than Bishop Harris, and all male, all Black men, right? There were people, I know some of our brothers, Riley, are not happy about all these Black women winning, but there were decades when there was nobody other than Barbara Harris up in the House of Bishops. It was all Black men. And of course,
I don't entertain those grousing.
Right. There have been lots, of white women, including our former presiding bishop, Catherine Jefferts Shorey. So it has taken a while for the church to really recognize the gifts and the talents of women of color and to say these should be lifted up for God's greater glory. I would say for me, being a person who needs to see it happen, if Jennifer Baskerville Burrows had not won diocesan in Indianapolis, I never would have gotten in a race as a diocesan bishop because I just couldn't see it, right? It seemed like you had to go to Massachusetts and your last name had to be Harris and you had to be a suffragan if you were a Black woman and you wanted to be a bishop in the church. And, I wasn't interested in going back to Massachusetts and my last name isn't Harris. So yeah. Once Jennifer cracked it open, and she's just so phenomenal. I mean, how awesome is she? What a rock star. Yeah, she knocked it out of the park. And so people seeing, I think about the pressure that I feel, think about the pressure that she felt, knowing that if she flubbed it up, that would have repercussions for other Black women in elections. And, she was the first, and then Carly was the second to be consecrated, and both of them have just lived into the episcopate with such grace. And I mean, competence, forget it, hands down, knocking it out of the park. They've made it easier for people to say, wow, yeah, maybe so. And, my hope is that I can do this job to the best of my ability so that, when it's time for me to retire, people will say, yeah, she well done, good and faithful servant, and let's give some more women of color a chance. Pave the way.
Yeah. Yeah. You are on the committee. Are you not, to select the new or to nominate the new
presiding bishop? Yeah,
presiding bishop.
I try not to complain and not want to be part of the solution. And my thought is that I have some strong ideas, as you might imagine, on what we need in our next presiding bishop. And it seems to me that the more newly consecrated bishops are going to have more time with the next presiding bishop than somebody who's a year or two from retirement. So I was very humbled that my brother and sister bishops would elect me. I'm the most recently consecrated of the 5 bishops to serve, but Jennifer Baskerville Burrows and Rob Wright are both on that committee. And, as an aside, both of them had been, I'd heard, discussed as possible strong candidates to be the next presiding bishop. So the fact that they're on the committee, I think, is a very strong statement that they're making, that they're not interested in running.
Oh, that's a little of Dick Cheney.
Yeah, I'm not eligible. I haven't been in service long enough, and I'm 57, so I'm aged out of it.
No, you have time. There's a young man who's a junior at Virginia Seminary that we have hired part-time. He was the only applicant to do some work in the archives for us, and he's on the committee as well. Scott Thomas, is it Scott Thomas?
We haven't met yet.
Oh yeah, his name is Thomas. Well, so
Yeah.
I said to Chris and to him yesterday that I was going to take your oral history today, and he said, "Oh, Bishop Roaf, she's from Pine Bluff," and he's from Arkansas. He says he's
great. Well, yeah. I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Yeah, he's a nice kid, nice young man. He's not a kid.
Yeah.
What is your prayer life like?
That's a great question. During COVID, all bets are off. I was doing a lot of walking, really until recently, because with COVID, so many meetings were virtual that I have been using sort of walking in the park as just a time to clear my head and ask the Lord for guidance. I took the month of July off and was doing the daily office, and then came back in August and kind of got caught up in a couple of firestorms and actually need to get back to that. It's interesting. Even as a bishop, your prayer life ebbs and flows.
Sure.
But absolutely you need it. And it's been different things at different times for me. But for most of COVID, it was actually walking 4 or 5 days a week.
Journey.
Yes, journey.
Putting the walking with him, her.
Literally.
Yes. We're going to wrap up now, I think, but I wanted to ask you, when you agreed to do this with me, and for the seminary and for the church, was there anything that you had in mind that you wanted to convey that we have not talked about?
That's a great question. If anyone is using, this resource, I hope they are already well aware that Black folk are not new to the table in the Episcopal Church, that we've been around for a long time, sometimes against our will, but some of us have chosen to stay, and we're part of the family. And it's important that our contributions and our feedback be accepted and acknowledged and recognized. And I'm grateful that you all are preserving these records. And I think I need to, again, it's such a different call than as a parish priest. When I left St. Philip's, I left copies of the parochial reports and various notes and stuff, but I ended up shredding lots and lots and lots of stuff. And, now as a bishop trying to figure out, what do I save and all this paper? Because of course, I, being a former attorney, I have legal pads, I have yellow everywhere, what's going to happen to all of this stuff once I'm retired? So it's probably good for me to start thinking through what would be good for the archives to have. I don't know what West Tennessee needs to keep. I don't know what, the presiding bishop's office will want, but it's something to think about. It's funny, Riley, I don't think about myself as living history. I kind of just see myself as Phoebe, but the reality is, right, starting even with going to college, like I've been the only or the first, and I will be so thankful when there are no more firsts. But I was the first Black woman ordained priest in the Diocese of Louisiana, and New Orleans was 80% Black before Katrina, so I couldn't have been the first Black woman to ever feel a call to ordination. I was the first African American to serve at Trinity Episcopal Church in the Garden District. I was the first woman to serve at St. Philip's in 150 years. I'm the first female diocesan south of the Mason-Dixon. They have had a couple of suffragans, but they had never had a woman diocesan, and Tennessee had never had an African American or a woman. So it's just weird, I just kind of feel like I'm doing my job and trying to be faithful to what the Lord has called me to. And maybe when I retire, I can kind of reflect on what the real significance of all of this, because in the moment it just feels like be faithful to what's right in front of you. You can worry about like the history of it, but it's so, and it gets me in a conundrum sometimes. So like I hate these big, huge, massive oil portraits that are in this building. Like I feel like it's such an antiquated way of living into the episcopate, and you have to have a committee, and the original portraits are tens of thousands of dollars. And, I'm in a city with extreme poverty. If I had an extra $50,000, it would not be for a portrait, right? So I don't want one. And I have said publicly that I'm not going to do it. And I've had a couple of people to say to me privately, girls who walk into that space need to see you.
Right.
People of color who need to walk in that space need to see you. So then what? Right. So what can we do? Is it just a picture, right? Is it just And maybe that's $10,000 for a large picture as opposed to, right, an oil paint. Like, what can we do that satisfies that need? And then also, I feel like I'm being a good steward and not spending tens of thousands of dollars on something that, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important to me. So I'm still,
Well, it may not be important to you, Phoebe, but that's not the point.
Right. I'm still navigating it all. I guess
Right.
that's
But what you know, and what has been clear and is still clear, is that God has laid his hands on you.
God has.
Yeah.
And I'm in many ways a very unlikely character for all of this. I wonder why it has happened the way it has. But you said something earlier when you mentioned the oratorical skills. It has been, you're right, when I look back on it, I mean, all the various parts of my life have come to bear in this moment. And I have transitioned into this position, Riley, in a way with a smoothness that has shocked even me.
But you know what? We're the sum total of all of our experiences.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And yes, you are, Bishop Phoebe Roaf. The Right Reverend Phoebe Roaf.
Riley, I tell you, as a girl, even going to Camp Mitchell, which is closed now, on Betty Jean Mountain, formative part of my faith journey. Never in my wildest dreams, Riley, I didn't even have the words to dream this life that I'm living. I couldn't have dreamt it. So, I mean, you can't outdo the Lord. You can't outdo God.
Powerful testimony.
You can't. I mean, I couldn't have dreamt it. So here I am. And I'm only 2.5 years in. So,
and you know what?
What's going to happen?
And I was surprised to see that you have been there that long, because it seems like just yesterday.
I know.
But you didn't see it. I want to stress that.
I didn't.
You didn't see it because you don't see this about yourself.
I don't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But maybe that's a good thing, Riley.
Yeah, probably. But what's also better is that everybody else sees it. Right. And they are energized by you. They're inspired by you.
Yeah, well, that's very nice. Yeah. I've had dinner with some folks, and they need 2 extra chairs for their ego. So I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah, we know some of those.
Yeah, we know some of those. But yeah, well, thank you, Riley. I think that this is important work that you are doing. And, if there are other ways that I can help, I don't know, publicize the project or just let people know the archives are available. So, for example, based upon sort of this work that you're doing, will there be a file, digital file, or what would it look like?
Yes. And, the whole idea, they said, come in and beef up the collection. And I said, well, this is what, I know that the best thing I can do is to pull on the low-hanging fruit, people who would not tell me no.
Of course, yeah.
Right. And, and pull in. And so I've had some wonderful talks with people, and I have some wonderful ones coming up. All that being said, but you're right, I also want to look at parishes.
Yes.
Who have significant histories.
Oh, yeah.
They're white now, but they have significant histories of people of color, Black people, enslaved and free, who were in their 4 walls and worshiping the same God.
Yep.
But had completely different experiences.
Right.
And that needs to be uncovered. I don't know why people are so squeamish about talking about it.
So can I give you a church to add to your list?
Please do.
St. Paul's in Mason, Tennessee. That is the church that raised up Bishop Demby. He's a son of West Tennessee. He was made a priest out of that congregation. Now, of course, when he became bishop suffragan for colored whatever it was, he was a little west of us. Mm-hmm. So he covered Arkansas, I think part of Texas, part of Missouri, but he was raised up out of West Tennessee. And I have some folks on some of my diocesan governing boards who are 6th generation African-American Episcopalian out of that church. They had a school. It was a whole training ground. Now, of course, the population has changed and people have moved out of that very rural agricultural area, and it's very small. It's a mission congregation now, but there is an extensive history, and there are people who still know the history who are there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing before I let you go.
Yes.
In terms of what you keep and what you
Yes.
want the diocese to have, I'm sure they have, an archivist for the diocese, and they can give you some guidance.
Yes.
But what I would encourage you to do is to err on the side of turning everything over to an archive, and also to what is your alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
And then your alma mater can decide what it is that will enhance the collection.
Okay.
And return the rest to you.
Okay.
But I think that's what we did with Virginia Brown Nolan and her father's papers.
Yes. Yes.
Dillard Brown. And she said, just let us have them, and we'll go through them and archive them, catalog them, so on and so on. So we're curating.
Okay.
I'm not, because I don't know what I'm doing in archive.
Right.
But okay.
Great.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Well, Riley, it's wonderful to see you virtually. I don't know if I'm coming in November for the board meeting. It's still scary. So if I don't really have to travel, I'd rather do the virtual option.
Okay. Yeah, I've had my booster. I got my booster the other day.
Oh, good for you. I got my shots in March. So I think September or October?
October, I think. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, 6-8 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank you. And I appreciate your feedback. It helps me to see how other people see me, because my own lenses can be a little warped sometimes.
It's okay. What a wonderful talk.
Yes.
Thank you. I will send you a transcript of this.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably be in another couple of months.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no worry. You know how to get in touch with me, right?
Well, that's right. All right, Phoebe, take care.
Thank you, Riley.
All right.
Bye.